Hello peeps, welcome back to Big Deck Player with me, Matt Sparks. Today we are taking a look at a Paladin deck. It's been a while since I've featured a Paladin deck, and I've been looking for something other than Hunters and Warlocks to put in this series. And fortunately enough, a decent Paladin deck has come along and made its way in front of me. So we are going to have a look at it and what it can do. You may remember a little while ago I featured a deck called the Crusher Shaman. This deck is called the Crusher Deathadin. It's been posted on hearthstone.com by the same guy, HS Crusher. So you may be aware of this guy already because he's fairly prominent. I'll put a link in the description so you can go and check this deck out for yourself. What I will say is he's done a fantastic job of writing up details to do with this deck. So I'm going to go over it very briefly so that you just get a rough idea of what's in it, but please go and check out the page and give it a plus rating to make sure that other people get to see it as well. Okay, so let's start off at the top and work our way down. We have a couple of secrets in the form of Avenge. This is a get you get from Naxxramas. So if you haven't done Naxxramas yet, I suggest you do, because this card is fantastic. So when one of your minions dies, it gives a random friendly minion +3 attack and +2 health. This can be really cool, especially if you can combine it with a Haunted Creeper, because obviously they'll kill the Haunted Creeper, the 1/2, which summons two 1/1 spiders, which means one of those 1/1 spiders is going to be a 4/3 spider, which is pretty cool. So that's a nice little combo there. Also, we have one Blessing of Might. Now, some of the cards in this deck are open for change. I think Blessing of Might is probably one of them. There's no silence in this deck, so you might decide that instead of having a Blessing of Might, you might want to put in like an Iron Beak Owl or something instead. But so far, this has proved to be pretty useful. Putting a Blessing of Might onto a Haunted Creeper makes a Haunted Creeper a 4/2 and makes that a little bit more difficult to get rid of. Quite often you'll find that Haunted Creepers can be gotten rid of fairly easily if your opponent wants to, because it's only got one attack, so it can trade quite effectively with a lot of things. If you give that 4 attack, then suddenly it's not so easy to get rid of, and he's going to have to find another way to deal with it. We have 2 more secrets in the form of Noble Sacrifice. This is great for keeping the minions that you've got on your board alive instead of getting them traded off with something. Noble Sacrifice is also a great combination with the Knife Juggler, because obviously as soon as that Noble Sacrifice triggers, it summons the 2/1 creature, and then the Knife Juggler will throw a dagger out. So if you happen to be lucky enough that your opponent uses something that's only got 1 health to attack, say your Knife Juggler for example, you have got an opportunity to kill it off before it actually does attack and kill off your Noble Sacrifice, and then you've got a free 2/1 minion on the board. So we've got 2 Leper Gnomes and we've got 2 Undertakers, obviously great combination. We've got 2 Undertakers which will combo well with the Leper Gnomes and the Haunted Creepers. We also have 2 Loot Hoarders with more Death Rattle to combo with the Undertaker and some card draw. We have 2 Mad Scientists, again Death Rattle to combo with Undertaker. This one puts the a random secret onto the battlefield. This can be awesome because it means that you don't have to spend that mana to put the secret out yourself. It is only 1 mana though, so it's up to you whether you want to do it yourself or have the Mad Scientist do it for you. I prefer comboing with the Mad Scientist with the Undertaker if I can. So, but it just means that maybe you won't get the Noble Sacrifice, and maybe you'll get an Avenge instead, or vice versa. So, it can work in your favour, but sometimes it doesn't. We've got a little ahead of ourselves there. We have 2 Equality. because I think pretty much every Paladin deck has to have equality in it to be able to be competitive in any way, just to be able to counter most decks. If you've got a rush deck, an equality is a great way of, and a consecration is a great way of clearing the board. There is no Wild Pyromancer in this deck. Even though the Wild Pyromancer is a good card for Paladins, I'm not necessarily sure, because you're playing quite a lot of low-cost creatures, I'm not sure that it's a good idea to have this included, just because you'll end up killing off your own creatures, and that's something you don't want to do. So that's why it's not in the deck. We have 2 Divine Favours for some card draw. Because of the nature of this deck, and the majority of the creatures are very low cost, having Divine Favour is really useful. Now, what we can do with Divine Favour is, if we skip down a couple of cards, we have a King Muckler in the deck, which gives your opponent 2 bananas, right? So they get 2 extra cards in their hand. So if you can combo King Muckler with a Divine Favour, it means you're going to draw more cards. For a bit more card draw, we've got a Cold Light Oracle. I'm not too sure about this one, just because you're giving your opponent cards. Again, it can be quite nice to combo this with a Divine Favour, because you're giving your opponent cards. You can then use Divine Favour to be able to draw cards yourself, and hopefully your opponent will still have quite a few cards in their deck. I have been able to use Cold Light Oracles to burn my opponent's cards in the past, people that are holding on to their cards, like Handlocks and some Priest decks that I've been coming up against, which is pretty cool, but don't rely on that ever happening, because it doesn't always. 2 Harvest Golems, just because Harvest Golems are awesome cards, and Death Rattle, so it combos really well with the Undertaker. King Muckler, as I mentioned before. If you don't have King Muckler, you could probably switch it for... let's think. You could probably switch it for maybe a Chillwind Yeti. Or if you don't have... Everyone has a Chillwind Yeti. Or you could switch it for an Arcane Golem, which does 4 damage and charge, but it does give your opponent a mana crystal. But again, it's only 3 mana, so... you could switch it for that, so it's up to you. Obviously, Arcane Golem is the same cost as King Muckler, so for 1 less damage. But then the Chillwind Yeti is slightly more survival and doesn't give your opponent a mana crystal. So it's up to you. They're my 2 picks for what you could possibly replace King Muckler with if you don't have it. There's nothing else really that has that. I mean, or you could put like a big Game Hunter in if you really wanted to, just in case your opponent brings out something big at some point. But with equality, you shouldn't really have to worry too much about that. So it's up to you anyway as to what you do with King Muckler if you don't have it. Moving on, we have 2 True Silver Champions. Just because it's a Paladin deck, so you kind of need to have True Silver Champions because they're awesome. We have 2 Consecrations, as I touched on earlier, and then finally we have an Avenging Wrath, which does 8 damage randomly split among enemy characters. This can be quite nice comboed with an equality, or if you've got a bunch of low health creatures on your opponent's side of the board, it can be nice to kind of pick them off. So there we go, that's the deck. That is the Crusher Deathadin deck. As per usual, there will be a link in the description, so you can check it out for yourself. As I say, the guy has done a brilliant write-up. He responds to most of the comments asking for ideas for replacements and stuff. Really good write-up. One of the best ones I've seen for a while, so you should really go and check that out. Don't forget, give it a plus rating so that it gets a bit more popular and people that are coming to Hearthstone can check that out as well, and they'll see it. Other than that, I wish you the very best of luck playing this deck. If you make any videos or if you play this deck, let me know how you get on. Tweet me any links to videos or whatever, and I'll be sure to check them out, because I'd like to see them. I'd like to see other people playing these decks that I feature, because then maybe they'll see plays and make plays that I won't necessarily see. And I shall see you next time for some more Big Deck Player. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.